Hey, what's up, Facebook? How's it going? How's it going? Today is February 8th. I'm A.L. Johnson, and I'm your host. This is Elevating Men, which is the premier destination for men who want to improve their lives. It is truly our goal here to build better men because we believe that as we build better men, we're going to have stronger families, and stronger families build better communities. And so today we're going to have a little bit of a conversation. Of course, we want you to join in, leave your comments. We want you to like, we want you to share. And share this specifically with the men in your life who you know who are looking to improve, whether that's your son, your nephew, your brother, or just a friend at work. Let them know that we're having these conversations every Monday because it's extremely, extremely important in our communities that we step it up a notch. You know, our men need to step it up. Our women are stronger. They're taking on a huge load. There's so many single mothers out here. And we as men, we need to step it up. And for us to do that, we've got to be able to open up and we got to be able to have these conversations to help each other improve. And so before we get started, I want to introduce you to my brothers here. To the right of me on your screen is Mr. A.O. Boykin. You can find him on Facebook under Dinner and Dialogue. How's it going? How's it going?
Going great. Good evening, everyone. Going great, man.
Tell everybody about the plan. How's the plan going on? Just a real quick synopsis of what you got going on there.
I and others have a plan called the 32-year plan. It's also called the Restoration, Rest in 2050. And Rest in 2050 is building resources and stuff for the year 2050. While everybody's working on the now, we're building the tomorrow. So when you all are ready, the tomorrow will be there.
Awesome. Below him, got brother Lauren Jones. He's got his own podcast. It's called The Fatherhood, and so this is an awesome collaboration because he believes exactly like we do that the father is important. Lauren, how you doing today?
What's going on, man? Good evening, Facebook.
All right. And we've got a new guest. You guys haven't met him, and so I want to give him ample time to introduce himself, who he is, and what he has going on. But below me on your screen is Mr. Christopher Williams. He's the author of a book called Heart Warrior. How you doing this evening?
Good. How you doing? What's up, Facebook? Good evening.
And so tell me this a little bit. I have not got a chance to read the new book, brother. I know you. Just from some of your posts, it looks like you had an uphill battle, as far as your health and things like that, and you took that adversity and really turned it into something. Can you just share a little bit about your book and what that project is all about?
Yes, sir. My first book was called The 10 Daily Weapons of a Heart Warrior. I had 2 heart transplants and a stroke. And so when I had my second transplant, I was in the hospital for 8 months straight in ICU. And so during that time, that's where I really found purpose, what I was supposed to be doing with my life. God brought me through the first one, and I kind of stepped back from doing what I wasn't supposed to be doing. And he took me back through it when I had to go have my second transplant. Man, that 8 months in the hospital woke me up. I seen a lot of stuff. I went through a lot of pain mentally, physically, and I just wanted to share what I did to get through those days in the hospital as a mental standpoint, as a physical standpoint. So the book entails 10 different things, 10 different steps that I did. One, befriending pain, finding purpose for pain, reading, journaling, all that type of stuff is broken down in the book that I did. I'm working on my second book now. It's called The Birth of the Heart Warrior, the Christopher Williams story. It's supposed to be released on Valentine's Day, but I might have to push it back just because of everything with COVID and stuff going on. But it's about my story, about me facing adversity, finding purpose in life, becoming a motivational speaker, personal trainer, author, and really just getting awareness around healthy heart stuff, especially that goes in Black young men that we didn't learn about growing up. High blood pressure, signs of a stroke. I didn't know any of that stuff when I was growing up, and I didn't learn it until I was 36 when I had my first heart transplant. So I felt like it's my duty on me to get this word out, and that you can make it through this stuff. It's okay to not to be okay, especially as men. Uh, so we got that, we always got that pride, that wall built up. And sometimes God put a team around us that He wants to help use us to build us up, and we don't let that happen. That's one thing I learned the first time around is trusting the people God put around me and let these people do what they got to do, and let that pride go.
Wow, man, that's a powerful story. So, you said a stroke at age 36.
I had a stroke while I was in the hospital waiting on the first heart transplant at 36. I had my first transplant July 4th of 2012. 4
So,
years
so
out,
let me ask you
we
this.
moved to Texas, me and my family.
Yeah,
hmm
I want to ask you this, and then we'll jump into the content here. But that's a powerful story, man. That's a powerful story. I can't say that I've had any health challenges to
hmm
that extent. And so, when you were laying there in the hospital for 8 days, what was your one, just say, overwhelming thought that got you through? Just if you had to pick one, what was the one overwhelming thought that
I
really
was in
got you
there
through
for
8 months, I think.
8 months?
I was
Oh
in there
my.
for yeah, I was in there for 8 months. Yeah,
Okay, I
8 months
misheard that.
straight.
Wow,
Yeah, by the time I came out, we
wow,
had a new president. But
that's something.
yeah, I was in
Yeah.
there for 8 months straight in ICU. Uh, so I spent holidays in there. I mean, missed birthdays, everything. So the 8 months, man, you really find yourself. You find what's valuable in life and what can be snatched away. You know, after you have a heart transplant too, you still got to be in quarantine for at least about another 8 months in the house where you can't be around nobody because your immune system is so weak. So when
Okay.
COVID hit, I was good to go. I mean, I was used to being quarantined, but the
Right.
thing, like I said, the main thing I found when I was in the hospital for 8 months is purpose. You know, they say the meaning of life is find purpose. The meaning of life is find that gift, and purpose is to give it away. And I felt like I found it, and I needed to do more and more and more. So I did a lot of stuff with American Association in the urban youth area, going out doing speakings at schools and teach and churches and stuff like that. And so it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. You know what?
Did
And
you ever
somebody
feel
asked
like
me
giving up
last
at
week
any point?
if I had to do it all over again, would I? I said yes.
Did you
This
ever
is my
feel like
purpose.
giving
You
up?
took me through that for a reason. So,
Did you ever feel like giving up at
huh?
any point? Did you ever feel like giving up at any point?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's what mainly the book is about. Yeah, I'm human, so I went through that. I felt like giving up. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard. Yeah, I still do. You know, I get up every morning. I'm a personal trainer. I be at the gym about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm telling you how hard it is for me to get up and get going every day. Yeah, I be wanting to give up, but I start thinking about that purpose. You know, your why got to be bigger than anything else in the world. That's what's gonna get
Exactly.
you through the roadblocks. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it has to be for you. It can be for your kids, whatever your why. And it can't be just about money either. It's not for money. It's not what the purpose is. Uh, but my kids, my family, that's my why. That's why I didn't give up. And then last time in my new book, I do talk about suicide and depression because I did face that. You know what I'm saying? I was had bad thoughts, terrible thoughts, even attempted it. You know what I'm saying? So I lay it all out. You know, my transparency is gonna be somebody else's transformation. So
Exactly.
that's what I truly, truly believe.
Thank you.
Man, that's beautiful. That's
hmm
awesome. That's awesome. I'm definitely gonna check the book out. Definitely gonna check it out. And that's actually an excellent segue. So with elevating men, our entire purpose is to build up the man. And what really inspired me was some of the statistics that I found out when I started doing research for this project. Depression hits approximately 20% of men. And so if you know at least 5 men, you probably know one who is dealing with depression. 79% of all suicides are men, which is 4 times as many as women, right? And then 70 to 89% of all sudden heart attacks are experienced by men, with the leading cause of that being stress. And so it's my belief that the reason these sad statistics are true is because men have really lost sight of their value. They've lost sight of what their purpose is, as you said, Chris. When you were there in the hospital for 8 months, the biggest thing that kept you going was knowing that, hey, I've got a purpose. I've got to get up from here, and there's some things that I need to do. And so without having a strong sense of value and purpose, men tend to, lead their lives with mistakes unknowingly, and we load up our lives to a point that eventually it crushes us. I liken it to a gym. Like, you're a personal trainer. I like to go to the gym a lot. And when it comes to the weight bench, the bench press, everybody's familiar with that. It's really easy to pick up a 45-pound plate and put it on the end of that bar. And it's so easy to do that you can do it several times. You say, hey, let me put some more on here. Let me put some more on here. Let me add a little more on this side, a little more on that side. And before you know it, you have a weight that you can't bear. As you know, the bench press is actually a dangerous exercise. If your arms were to give out on you, you can literally die under the bar. And so I believe that a lot of today's men, because we live our lives so unintentionally, we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, doing whatever comes to us day by day. We're loading up that bar with too much weight, right? We have one, pregnancy that was earlier than we expected. We weren't ready to be a father, so that's a weight. We jump into a career that we're really not passionate about. That's another weight. We venture into drugs or alcohol, another weight. And before we know it, when we, reach our 30s, around 30, 35, that's when a lot of men, the light comes on. We've got all this responsibility, and now we're trying to get serious about life. The weight is so heavy that it crushes many of us, which plays itself out in the form of what they call a midlife crisis. And so what we want to do here is start to address these issues early on. We want to encourage our young men and give them tips, tools, and strategies so that they don't have to reach that point, so that they don't load their bar up so much that it crushes them later in life. So today we're going to discuss a lot of the pitfalls, how they can be avoided. We'll deal with some of society's expectations of men, and really just start to recognize what men's true value is. So I had my first question here. I was doing some research, right? And I found this really, really interesting. As you know, China's a communist country. They're looking for world domination. They don't hide it. They don't bite their tongue about it. You just type it in Google and you'll see all of that rhetoric, right? Well, it's interesting because they just said that they're concerned about a masculinity crisis. So over in China, they're concerned that their little boys aren't growing up to be masculine enough. And so they made a legislation. You can look at the BBC. I always look at worldwide news. The proposal to prevent the feminization of male adolescents. And this is in quotes. It says that without it, it would inevitably endanger the survival and development of the Chinese nation. And so first, I want to get your thoughts on that. For a country who's seeking world domination to feel that they need to put in place proposals to make their young boys more masculine or identify their roles earlier in life. What are your thoughts on that? Just in general. Let's start with you, Lauren. What would be your thoughts on that?
And that's deep. I think for those that don't know, China used to kill off the girls and just keep the boys. That went on in China for quite some time. So it flows right along that mindset. They already felt like the male was more important than the female, and things of that nature. So, but to get into legislation and different things like that, that's really no different than the legislation we do for the opposite here in America. We're looking at legislation for the LBGT plus community, and so it's kind of the reverse pivot of that in a lot of ways. This I would be interested of why they truly feel like the issue exists in general. Was there any information on why they felt like the issue exists?
Yeah, so there's a boot camp that they've started as the first phase of the legislation, and they interviewed a lot of the parents who voluntarily enrolled their children. So this wasn't like a Chinese mandate, they're dragging them out of the house and making them do it. The parents said they felt, this was their own personal feelings, that their men were growing up to be more effeminate, petty, weak-minded, emotionally fragile, immature, timid, and lacking confidence. That was the recurring thing. And so they feel that if they allow this to continue, these young boys will grow up as men with those same attributes, and it will be a detriment to their society.
I can see that. I can see that. When I say that, I hope I'm not getting ready to sound sexist or anything, but
speak your mind, brother. I said, speak your mind, bro.
I can see that. And when I say that, the man has roles according to his story. And his story says that if she's impregnated and she cannot go out and hunt, she can't leave the cave or whatever, somebody has to. And somebody has to, with a mindset, to bring back the food by any means necessary. So that means when you see the baby fawn, you don't cry for it, you kill it. And when you see something that will cause some type of hesitation or emotion, you swallow that, because the end goal is you have to have this mindset, this man set, in order for the family to survive.
Hmm. Well, what are your thoughts on that, Christopher? What are your thoughts on a country feeling that raising boys to be men is so important that they're passing legislation on it?
I can see where they're coming from with it. I mean, it's a lot of stuff nowadays that the kids can get into that can stir their mind. I mean, social media, the internet. Every time you look around and something else going on, we didn't have that type of stuff where we can get into stuff. We knew one way to grow up. You know what I'm saying? It was you do wrong. It was a backhand smack. It could be, or you go outside and you play on your bike until the street lights came on. So I can see where they're going with a little bit. Where a lot of these kids are growing up in a different total way. Like the internet is growing them up. Like the YouTube channel is growing them up. Um, that's what's raising them, and that's on the parents. I don't think you need
Right.
to. I don't think you need to force them to go through a boot camp. I mean, you don't want to take no. You want to child to succeed the way he wants to succeed. I
Mhm.
think that's my personal opinion, but I can understand what they saying about the master stuff. But I wouldn't definitely want to make them go to no boot camp or anything like that. Yes, while cut out the internet. Yes, while make them go outside and play. Yes, uh, that's just my opinion about it. But you take away like their purpose, let them find their way, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and see, and that's where because I had mixed feelings when I read it. Initially there was a part of me that was like, that's pretty harsh, and like you said, in certain ways you could be forcing someone outside of their natural character, and all types of people are needed to make the world
Hmm.
work. I truly believe that. But one thing that I did gather from their sense of urgency in making their boys more masculine is that there has to be a certain level of intention when it comes to raising a boy to be a man. Not that there isn't the same level of intention when it comes to raising a
Hmm.
young girl to be a woman, but it's an intentional process. It just doesn't
Hmm.
happen. If we, allow our boys and just leave them to their own devices, they do grow up with a lot of these character traits that the Chinese society is afraid of. And let me read those again: effeminate, petty, weak minded, emotionally fragile,
Hmm.
immature, timid, lacks confidence. Now, a lot of people may be afraid to say that this is true, but let's just look at our women. Let's look at social media. Let's look at the conversations that they have about the men that they deal with. Have you
Exactly.
or have
Hmm.
you not seen women say,
Exactly.
"Hey, man, these dudes are weak, man. He's petty, going
Yeah.
through my phone. I can't go
Yeah.
nowhere. He's hunting me down. He's immature. He's 45, dressing like he's 20. You know what I'm saying? Him and my son wearing the same clothes. They see it, right? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? They see it.
Exactly.
The men are lacking confidence. This is true. So
Yeah.
it's like we can kind of be a little
Yeah.
tight-lipped, and I don't know, but it's the truth. It's the truth, right? And
Yeah.
so that's where the men in our society are going. It's heading in that direction. One thing that I have noticed is YouTube. I always look at different searches that are trending. One that is trending right now is how to for men. And I mean, like, from how to change the oil, how to talk to a woman, what cologne should I wear, how to groom myself as a man. And for these search terms to be surging, that tells me one thing. There are a lot of teenage boys and young men who are completely lost on what it takes to be a man, and they don't have anyone close to them to give them that information. They're having to find it through YouTubers and people
Exactly.
just putting out the information that way. And so
Exactly.
there's a big problem there. When it comes to seeking out that information, we talked last week about making sure that if it's a single mother raising a boy, that she can find a role model or someone who's close by, to help instill some male values into them. Kind of continuing on that conversation, what are your thoughts on um, men's lack of manhood, so to speak. Um, based off of the Chinese philosophy, just saying that men are growing up to be petty and weak-minded, emotionally fragile, etc. Where do you think that comes from?
A lack of a lack of a lack of discipline, a lack of oh shoot, role model, a lack of purpose, a lack of purpose. And when I say that, meaning if the purpose is to keep the family and if the purpose is to keep the country going, okay, or the family going, whatever the purpose is, that means someone has to keep it going. And in order to keep it going, this is how we did it. This is how we want it to keep going. If you go this way, that's not how we did it. And this is how wide it can go and how out of control it can get. This is how we did it. And this is how we want to keep it going. A lot of men, a lot of boys don't have that. They don't know this is how we did it. This is how you keep it going because they don't know where they're going because they don't even know where they came from. And they don't, and all that stuff is scary.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that, Lou?
I mean, I think the biggest piece for me is discipline. I think that a lot of boys are just simply undisciplined. Life is about evolution, so I think things have to evolve. You don't want to stop evolution because you're afraid necessarily of where it may go. You just have to make sure that you continue to steer it in the right direction. A boat may row a couple degrees, to the east. You don't want it to go 30, but it's okay if it goes 10. So once it starts to kind of veer off, you want to redirect it. But maybe, that 0 to 10, maybe there's something to that. So I think you have to be careful how you try to control the evolutionary process. And I think that discipline plays a big role in that, and a lot of that is being able to model behaviors. And I think when we talk about, how boys may be, more fragile and things of that nature, I think that's what a lot of that is they're not able to see any role models that exhibit those behaviors, and so what's in their face is women. The women
Exactly.
are in their faces all the time. Some of it is the nurturing side of a woman, and then the other side of it is the lack of a man. So she has to then invest more energy and more time, and so that's all that they get is they get a lot of their thought processes. I won't go as far as saying that uh, they're weak minded because I don't necessarily feel like that is a I don't yeah I don't think I wouldn't go there because I know some pretty strong minded women.
How
That
about
very
how
very
about it,
huh?
instead of calling it weak-minded, how about understanding or entertaining the thought that that mind is actually beginning to absorb as early as the eyes are opening.
Yeah.
And if the only person in front of those eyes are the woman from
Yeah.
0 to 3,
Yeah.
then there's a
Exactly.
strong possibility that that child has taken on exactly what it's seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
No. So I was reading. There's a clinical therapist. Her name is Stephanie Regan, and there's a quote from her. It says, "Today's men are much less sure of themselves than their female counterparts." Do you believe that to be true?
Yep.
Lauren says no.
Yep.
Okay, let's start with you, Drew. Why do you agree?
I agree because of that word purpose again that Chris used. I think that a lot of men are confident in what they want at that time, but when that time changes, then they have to go out and redefine themselves, and that's when that unsettling occurs until they are grounded again. But they're always looking for something for themselves because they have no purpose, and that is always in a state of change.
Yep.
And Lauren, you said you disagree with the statement. Just repeat it for the people that are just hopping in. It says today's men are much less sure of themselves than their female counterparts. What are your thoughts on that, Lauren?
I think it's across the board. I think that's why you see both young men and young women just they like everybody's all over the place. You know, girls want to be boys, boys want to be girls. I think that just the species in general is just that's that no direction. You know, no purpose. I think it's on both sides of the coin. You know, I look at girls and I'm like why don't you embody more of you know
The feminine.
some of the feminine side,
Mhm.
and some of that is some of that goes to the lack of a man in the house too. To be honest with you, you know they may be mentally searching for what that is and what that looks like, and so they're searching the same way a boy may search. So I look at this generation, I'm like, you know, they're just all over the place. There is no direction, there is no purpose, and you know I'm not gonna say that we've given up because I don't think that we've totally given up, but I think that we've chosen to check out in the area of discipline. I think we have chosen to check out, and we just let them kind of do whatever, and you know try to
Yeah,
try to find themselves. You know, everybody needs to have the ability to find themselves, but it comes from a built-in structure at the same time. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. Like, and one thing I always tell people, instead of finding yourself, because that can be a process that's all consuming for the majority of your life because you're always evolving and changing, and so the target is moving. I prefer to use the term "build yourself" because that lends to you actually having a vision and a purpose, and you're moving towards something specific. And so people need to kind of really move from that mindset of well, let me find myself, let me go out here and do all these things externally to figure out who I am, when really that's inner work. You have to build the type of life that you want. We got a comment from Dana Elmore. It says, I have to disagree with you. I've been a single mom to 3 girls and 1 son. My son is nothing like you think. I agree with you, Dana. I was raised by a single mother. I don't find myself to be an extremely petty, man, or any of the other things that we described before. One thing that we've hit on here is though is discipline. And so if we consider that China forcing enrollment into programs to make the boys more masculine is on the far side of discipline, there has to be a 2 week side of discipline. And I believe that what we're gathering at this point is that it isn't based off of them necessarily just being raised by a woman, but when there isn't that man there to kind of add that additional level of discipline, a lot of our boys do lean in that direction. Not all, but most, most definitely.
It's also about
Um,
that. It's also
mhm,
about that environment too. Growing up, so I grew up in the inner city. I grew up from Wyandotte County. But one thing my mom, I grew up with a single mother too. But one thing my mom did make sure I was around the good environment. So if I wasn't at home, I was down at JFK Recreation Center, and that place saved my life. I was down there around good guys playing basketball. That's where I learned how to play basketball. That's how I learned to be tough. I go down there from 3 to 9 o'clock at night, and then go straight home instead of hanging out in the corners with some of my friends I knew, but I couldn't be in that environment though. She wouldn't let me be in that environment. And
right.
like you said, with the discipline, you got to put that mindset. These kids got to understand you can grow on your own. You're a product of your environment. You know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna stay on YouTube, I'm gonna do the stuff that's on YouTube. If I'm gonna go out and hang out with a bunch of whatever gang members, whatever that's what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? You're a product of your environment, and that's also a big key to that too.
Yeah, so and then in being a product of the environment, I do believe a big part of it is the messaging, um, towards our boys, and then not enough positive affirmation. And so,
Hmm.
like with the women's movement, like you see, I'm fine, I'm fly, I'm saved. You see the
Hmm.
women's empowerment network. You see the women's brunches that are happening on the weekends. They're doing the work. They're building themselves up. I
Yep.
think a problem that we're running into is not that men aren't masculine enough. And let me be careful with my words here because I really want to bring this point across. I think it's very important. Our women aren't as restricted as they were before. And we all know this, before the men were the sole providers, now women are in the workforce. They don't need us as much financially, but we're still needed. You know, we're definitely still needed. And so I think that, you know, a big part of it is when you look at social media and you look at the conversation about men, social media, because of the algorithm and the way it works, you know, with likes and shares and comments, etc., we're wired to gravitate towards more negativity than positivity. And the proof is in the pudding, because when it comes to television programming, you're not going to watch anything that doesn't have a certain level of intrigue. And we find, you know, violence intriguing. That's why a lot of the movies that are the most popular, Scarface and things like that, they're based around ideals that we really don't live in our lives. Most of us aren't drug dealers. We're not killing people. But we like to fantasize about the negative. So when it comes to social media, when you have women, you know, posting, hey, you know, my baby daddy ain't ish, right? And then it gets 200 likes and 25 shares and 100 comments, it encourages more of that conversation. And although it may be true, I believe that we get trapped in these echo chambers of all men are bad. Now, the issue with it is we act as if our children don't have access to the same social media platforms that we do. And so I've seen and heard conversations with young boys who have seen the exact same thing that we've seen. And so we have to kind of start thinking, like, how does that affect the psyche of a young man to go onto social media or to watch TV and to constantly hear, you know, men aren't needed, men aren't this, women saying, I don't really need a man, etc. How do you think that plays on the psyche of a young man, Lauren?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So I think when you look at it in totality, you know, that's where understanding of who you are and what your purpose is comes into play. You know, I mean, yeah, y'all don't know about a camera, but I mean, I've been short since the first grade. You know, I've had more. Yeah, you just shorty and all kind of stuff. You know, and it was just kind of like, okay, uh, I can either take that and just cry about it, or I can learn how to supplement what I'm not. You know, and so I started to use other parts of who I was, not to overcompensate, because you never want to overcompensate. You don't have to, but you do want to show other things about you, to that you don't make that a defining part of who you are. You know, and we don't do enough for the positive negative balance. I think everything is, you know, it's rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. Like we don't really dig hard. You know, I remember when I had I was a little dude. Chick was like, "Yeah, man, I can't date you because you too short." I came home and cried, and my dad laughed at me. He was like, "Why you crying?" You know, he was like, "Man, if she don't want you, just keep moving." You know, you know, and so I think you have to have a healthy balance of positive and negative. I think with a lot of young men, we talk a lot about the negative things that they see every day, and so we want to overcompensate. We want to go completely the other way, when really it's more about the balance and not necessarily about trying to make up for the lack thereof. I noticed there was another comment from that same lady that was talking about babies raising babies.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something too. But
Yeah,
you hit on a good point.
but I was one of those guys,
Yeah.
without a father. I had my first kid when I was 16. And, I had enough self discipline to look at it from a simplistic point of view, and say, okay, what does a kid really want? What did you want that you didn't have? And I just really was able to simplify things. I think when you talk about social media, these kids have a million different opinions that they're trying to figure out which one is the right one.
Right, right. It's a lot of mixed messaging too.
Yeah, and that's what really leads to that lack of confidence is they don't know what the right answer is. They don't know.
You're right. You're right. One thing that I want to touch on that you mentioned. So we're talking about men, you know, maybe the boy's growing up to be a little too weak or maybe feminine or however you want to define that. But that's something that men deal with too, is body positivity. I know, Chris, with you being a personal trainer, you probably deal with that a lot firsthand. But just as women deal with body positivity issues, and maybe feeling like they're they got a little too much here and not enough there, and that sort of thing, men deal with exactly the same thing. And I agree with you, Lauren, that there are extremes to it, because sometimes you can push a child too hard in one direction and that automatically pushes them, it repels them,
Mm-hmm.
and it pushes them the other way. And so we do have to be careful in our desire to give our boys the license to be as masculine as they feel, or as they choose to be, giving them that license without pushing them so hard that it does repel them and they go the other way. There's one thing that I wanted to bring up, and it's something I was thinking about over the weekend, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So when I was growing up, my mother, I think I've shared this before, but my father and I didn't grow up in the same home. He was there until I was about 7 years old or so, and from there we had a long distance relationship. There were years where we didn't talk, where we didn't see each other, where there was zero communication. One thing that my mother did, instead, I've never in my entire life, still to this day, I've never heard her bash my father. Not even from the next room, talking to a friend. Social media didn't exist when I was growing up, so definitely not there. But she never did, and in fact, she went a step further. And so on birthdays, on holidays, I would have to send him a card, whether he sent me one for my birthday or Christmas or not. I had to make sure that I did it for him. It was something that my mother required of me. And I remember I was maybe about 13 years old. I was extremely angry with my father. We hadn't spoken in a couple of years. And she said, "Well, here's his birthday card. Come sign it." And I was so mad that I was in tears signing this card, completely in tears. And I never really understood until maybe a few days ago um, why she did that and the positive effect that it had on me. What it allowed me to do was be able to take a look at how she was able to accept my father for who he was, to teach me to still love and respect him in spite of his flaws. And a lot of women, with the modern philosophy, they may say, "Well, that was stupid of her. I wouldn't have done that. That's definitely something I wouldn't do. Forget that dude. He ain't handling business." But I realized that there were certain points in my life where I was doing the same stuff my father was. And if you're not able to forgive yourself for your shortcomings, it's really tough for you to improve as a person. There has to be a level of forgiveness, of self forgiveness. And the way that I was able to forgive myself at times was through seeing the forgiveness that my mother gave my father. And so I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that for the women who are raising young men, who definitely may be struggling, they may be upset, they may be pissed off at how things are going. Do you see any importance to still teaching that child to have some respect for their father?
Ah, gosh, man, I wanted to go back to the other.
No, not all at once. Not all at once.
It's funny you said that though.
What are your thoughts on that?
For the
Yeah, what are your thoughts on
4 to 5 minutes of anger? What'd you say?
Chris, you got the floor. Go ahead. Your voice is going in and out.
Is it on me? I can't hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on you.
Okay. So thinking about that, so 4 to 5 minutes of anger equals 4 to 5, 6 hours of weakened immune system. So your mom taught you how to let things grow. Forgive yourself. Forgive your father. I mean, we as males, man, especially black males, we keep that anger built up inside us so long that it blocks everything, any other vision that we will have. So we got to learn how to get over being mad or reacting to something that happens in our life. But you won't get smacked in the mouth in life. That's just everybody does. I don't know nobody that made it unless you're just born into rich. But anybody knew that grew up and made it, they got smacked in the mouth at one point in time in life. It's all about how you responded to that. You know what I'm saying? There's always gonna be. We talk about purpose all this broadcast. There's always purpose in your pain. You know what I'm saying? There's always purpose for it. It's either gonna be a lesson be taught, or it's gonna be something that you shouldn't be doing again. It's something in there you gotta learn what it is. Um, and I always been that way. I don't know if it's just because I was the only child growing up and I was lonely. I had 20,000 friends, what it was, but I just forgave people. I just didn't let it bother me as much. I'm able to let stuff go. Yeah, of course I got angry. I was a kid, and I still get angry, but then I go sit myself down and remember I gotta let this stuff go, or I go do something to get rid of it, the anger. So like be for me, be working out. So I'll go work out, hit the gym. That's my place of peace. That's my temple. You know what I'm saying? That's why I go there and I block everything out. It might not be for the next person. It might be playing chess or something. It might be listening to music. But you got to find something that's gonna offset that anger. Because we got to let go of that anger.
Definitely.
Let me jump
Andrew, so what would you say? How do you feel? Do you feel that there's any importance to that or any credence to that idea that the mother forgiving the father for his inadequacies can have a positive effect on the child?
Exactly. The mother knew. The
Yeah,
mother knew
definitely.
that the child didn't know. The mother knew a lot of stuff that the child didn't know. And what we're talking about is a child. And what
Right.
I wanted to go back to was we were talking about the kid finding himself, because we were using the word feelings and emotions and needing to forgive. A child doesn't find themselves. What they do, and this is just my opinion, what they do is they seek things that feel good. So if something does not feel good, then
Hmm.
they go elsewhere until they find something that feels good, and then they try and incorporate that so that good feeling will last. And
Mm.
if somebody judges them on that, be it they found a whole bunch of women that made them feel good, and that's where they're hanging out, then that now there's conflict within them, because all they want to do is feel good. They don't know what purpose is. They don't know what feelings are. All they want to do is feel good at that age. So they're trying to find what feels good. And as they grow older, we're expecting them to understand that they are actually on a direction. So when your mother was actually telling you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, you don't understand why, but you need to do this. It will click later on. And
Powerful.
that's when learning actually meets understanding. Because what we were talking about earlier was a lot of learned behaviors. All we're doing is behaving what we've learned. Krista talked about going down to the center and not getting in games. Well, my thought on that is, whomever you're hanging with, be it the chess club, that's a game. Be it the math club, that's a game. It's
Mm.
just that the way that they form their thought, their purpose, and their attack is different than with a gun or with drugs or whatever we think that bad gang is. So what I'm saying is, to
Mm.
bring all this into fruition, um, we have to understand that we're dealing with a mind that is constantly developing. It does not really know what 1 plus 1 means. It knows how to remember 1 plus 1 equals 2 and when to apply it, but it does not know what it means until actual application, or that heart attack, or that becoming a missing father in action, or actually understanding that my height really had nothing to do with my manhood. All those things don't really kick into understanding until you actually experience it from the other side.
Mm. What's your thoughts on that, Lauren? And again, the question is the forgiveness, the mother forgiving the father for his inadequacies. What effect do you believe that may have on our young men?
Man, first of all, let me say kudos to your mother, because that's not common at all. Uh,
No, no.
so kudos to her. I think what one of the things that when as I was listening to you, uh, one of the things that really came to my mind was I have to assume one of the reasons that she did that is because she didn't want that to define you.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think that had to be one of the driving forces for her to do that, was she didn't want that to define you. You know,
Yeah,
she didn't want
you're right.
your father's transgressions to define you. She didn't want your anger to define you. Now you still travel down that path a little bit, and I think that's probably, maybe just due to maybe just not having male role model to talk to you, through that process. Uh, but she set the stage so that even though you experienced it, you had another train of thought of how to deal with that anger and deal with your feelings. So I applaud her for that. I think that you know knowing your audience is extremely important. The way you talk to a 6-year-old boy is not the same way you talk to a 12-year-old boy. It's not the same way you talk to an 18-year-old young man.
Yeah, definitely.
As you go through that process, uh, you have to stay consistent with your messaging while making it appropriate to where that kid is, that young boy is at that place and time in his life. Because it doesn't really matter uh, whether or not you have a male in the home or not have a male in the home if you're not constantly in action with that kid. There's
Right,
there's a ton of men in the home that they have one role, and that's to bring home the bacon. And so when
right,
they get off of work, they got their feet kicked up, they waiting for their plate, and they turning the TV on or something like that. They're not actually doing anything outside of that, and that is a lot about again understanding purpose as well, and what your true role is as a man and as a father, no, it's extremely important to continue that. When I talk to my boys now, I talk to them like men, but I
hmm
also have to understand that I can't say certain things
right,
because
right.
it's completely over their head. I have to figure out a way to articulate it in a way that they understand. Now, when my boys turn 12, 13 years old, the message is going to be the same, but how I say it may be a little bit different because they have a higher level of understanding, you know. And so what you teach at 6 doesn't necessarily change. It's how you deliver the message. You have to stay consistent, because especially in today's society where kids have so much access,
Right.
they have so much access, you have to start, they not playing with GI Joes. You know what I'm saying?
No.
They scrolling on the internet looking at who knows what if you're not paying attention.
They're playing on TikTok.
Yeah,
Right,
I think I talked about this last weekend. You got young boys out here trying to do the silhouette challenge, and I'm like, man,
right.
let me catch my son doing that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's my
yeah.
phone. I'm gonna throw it in the trash.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Wait a minute, Lauren, that was only 10 degrees to the right, man.
Man, right. So I, I got a theory. I got a theory. Um, I believe that young men gravitate towards what they don't see, but what they hear about. So let me expound on that. What I believe happens a lot is boys hear their mothers talk about how the men in their lives haven't been worth their weight. Um, and for a young boy who's trying to find himself, you know inherently that you weren't just made by your mother, right? You know that there was a counterpart. And all parents do this, men included. But parents tend to, when they're not together, they tend to equate all of the negative attributes of their child to the other parent, and all the good attributes are me. You know what I mean? Like, you got a great smile. Oh, you just like your daddy. Oh man, there you go with that temper, just like your mama. You know, that kind of thing, right? And so what I feel happens over time is a boy can start to say, okay, well, mom, good, dad, bad. I don't see dad. I don't have his side of the story, but I'm starting to have these certain feelings that I know don't jive with the way mom works. And so those have to be coming from my father. And in certain ways, I feel that that thought in and of itself repels young men from manhood. What are your thoughts on that theory? Do you think I'm anywhere close, or does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, I don't look at the dad good or dad bad because he's absent, and mom good because she's there. I look at dad no descript. Mom, she does everything for me. So again, this is where I like to be. I used to spend my summers in Alabama with my father, with my father's mother, because my father was a truck driver, bus driver. He was always on the road. So my grandmother would raise me down there. I never had any real interaction with my father. And do I love him any less? I love him based on what he poured into me. That's it. And I do love him. However, there is an emotional attachment that I have to my mother because she was there when I was sick. She was there when I was sad. She was there when I was happy. She was there. So that's how I associate the definition of mother and father, not parent, because I didn't even know that it took two parents to raise me, and I might be the only one in this room when you made that comment. But no, there was a lot of stuff that like mothers and father, or two people coming together to birth me. I didn't know any of that stuff until probably I finally took a biology class in high school, because it did not concern me. I was trying to find my place, my happiness.
Mm-hmm. So I know in my life it definitely happened with me, and so that's why I asked that question. There was a period of time where, because I wasn't around my father on a daily basis, and there was a lot of about his past that I just really didn't know. A lot of things I'm just now finding out after his passing, but I found myself doing certain things. I had a lot of problems with women. I've made every mistake with women possible, and when I was going through that process. There would be people in the family that everybody's got those negative people in their family. Oh, you just like your dad, and I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm like, what do you mean? And so I found myself when I would be doing things that I was told were like my father that were negative. I found myself doing them more. In my mind, I was wanting to pay attention to it to say, okay, let me do that again. It's like, what am I feeling? Because I was trying to figure out what he was feeling and what he was thinking, and why we ended up alone, and why he was able to shirk his responsibilities in some senses. And so I think that we have to be careful, especially a parent who's growing up, or a son who's growing up with his mother. She has to be very, very careful about the language she uses in regards to the father in front of the child, because unknowingly she could be pushing him in that direction. We got a question here.
Whoa. Hold on.
Yep.
Read this one. Read this one by Dana.
Yeah, that's what I was going to read this question here.
Okay.
So Dana Elmore, it says, I agree with all the gentlemen, but I have a question to all of you. I have a daughter that is 14. I do exactly what you're speaking about, and that's forgiveness to the absent parent. That's good. Kudos to you. But if the absent parent continues to speak to your daughter inappropriately, calls her out of her name, and then he tells her, I wanted your mom to get an abortion, do you continue to encourage the child to speak to the absent parent? As of right now, I tell my daughter it's her choice if she wants to speak to him. Anybody want to tackle that?
Lauren does.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
Yeah, he wants that one.
that's super. That's very common. I'm not gonna say it's not common. I would have to believe that the father is probably dealing with his own emotion about the mother that really has nothing to do with the kid. So he has a level of emotional immaturity about himself that he is kind of pushing. And I think that it's important for uh, anybody that is the custodial parent dealing with something like that to speak to the other parent. Let them know, hey, I know exactly what you're saying. This isn't appropriate, because at the end of the day, our job is to protect our children. You know what I'm saying, from in our enemies, foreign and domestic.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do have to call a spade, and if he is unwilling to change the way that he don't even need to be talking about the mother in any capacity. And so he needs to understand, that's important. Like, his job is to build his relationship with his daughter, not to talk bad about the mother. So he's got a level of emotional immaturity. I would just encourage you to say, hey, I understand what you're saying. You're imparting bad seeds into our child, and see if anything changes. If nothing changes, then sometimes you do have to make a call. You do have to protect. But if you're going to do that, you have to make sure that you don't ignore her behavior as a result of maybe a father being taken away. And I think that's super important is if he's not the right example for your child, which it may be very, very true, don't ignore the fact that she still needs some type of visibility of a positive male role model in her life. And so while you're not looking for a new boyfriend or anything like that, maybe it's an uncle or something like that. Kids need a balance of positive influence from both sexes. They need it. They have to have it. The girls are just as important as the boys, because you talked about you was out there, what I'm saying, doing your thing with the ladies. Well, ladies do the same thing.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
They get loose too, and so uh, the same kind of message and method applies. But
Now, now, what that brings to mind, that question that she asked, is one thing. Like we talk about how our children are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. I really believe that when it comes to your child's view of the other parent, leave it up to them. Leave it up to them. So when I shared the story with my mother, she made me, fill out the birthday cards. She would make me call at first, and so another part of the story is there was a point where my father had let me down enough times consecutively and in short order that it became to be a problem. She didn't stop the process of me, filling out the birthday cards, etc. But she did come to a point where the forced phone calls, that part of it stopped. It was, hey, respect your father. He's your father. That was always the conversation, but there wasn't as much pressure to push for a relationship that at the time he didn't want. And so my advice would be to, definitely never speak ill of the father. Even when she comes to you with these, concerns, address it, reassure that you're there for her and that you love her. But she will come to her own conclusion about her father. Trust and believe me, without anyone ever telling me anything. I came to a realization on my own, and it's best that it happens that way because one thing about time and people, sometimes they change, and what you don't want is for them to possibly develop a great relationship later and for her to think back at the point in times where you were unforgiving. And so it sounds like you're doing a great job. My advice would be to, just kind of keep doing what you're doing. Maybe don't force the relationship between her and her father, but allow her to grow and really just kind of come to her own conclusion with that.
And see, where I'm trying to understand a place that I'm not in, and that's a single mother that's raising a daughter. Because what we were talking about for men was this feeling that boys are gravitating to at a young age. They're trying to find what feels good. Well, rumor has it that so are young girls, and if their father rejects them, rumor has it that they eventually began to look for love or look for that father figure inadvertently. So this is a very fragile subject for the mother, and what we're talking about is forgiving, and forgiving does not necessarily encompass everything that we're thinking about. Forgiving could actually include distance. Forgiving basically means I understand exactly what's going on here. The father has pain, the father has hurt, it's against me, and he's taking it out on you, possibly. So therefore, like Lauren said, I have to protect you from this particular person who does not have your best interest in heart right now. And everything is a right now because we're looking for permanent situations or permanent answers for a temporary situation. This may change as he grows through whatever he's growing through. However, in the now, it's up to her to protect her daughter. It's up to her to help her daughter understand that it is not her, that it is him. She doesn't have to go into deep detail, but it is not her. And his lack of love does not mean that she is not loved. So there's a lot of dynamics that are going on right here that started in his life a long time ago because he never found what he thought he found when he went inside of her. And I'm sorry for saying it like that, but you know that's how we are when that temporary thing doesn't work out for us. So we have to find ourselves again, and we're angry while we're in that flux.
Man, you said a lot there. Look, I've got a theory on something. I got to run this past y'all because I've been thinking about this for a while. This is a good time to bring it up. This is my theory now. I really think that men, all men, most men, let me say most, we mature at different rates. I don't really think that we should be going after women as aggressively and at the rate that we do in our 20s. I think that's something that we should wait on until our 30s. And the reason I say that, I feel like a lot of men nowadays come out of the gate, you get straight out of high school, you're still wet behind the ears, you don't know much, and you go out and you immediately start pursuing women like a hobby or a sport of some kind. And through that process, you make a lot of mistakes between having children before you're ready to be responsible, between taking on a lot of debt and responsibility that you aren't ready for because you're trying to show a certain lifestyle that you really don't need to have in your 20s. I believe that if men waited until they were closer to their 30s, at least closer to their 30s, possibly beyond, they would be on their purpose by that point. Because 10 years of not focusing on chasing women and messing your life up, you're probably going to find your purpose within that. You're probably going to be a little more financially stable. You're probably going to have more intention when you finally do start dating women, and you'll have a better sense of the type of woman that you want. In turn, it's more likely that you may actually even be married when you have your first child, and it might work out. That's just a thought. It's a theory. I didn't do it, but when I think back,
Chris,
we didn't about life until that age. So, what would be your thoughts on that, Chris?
Will you interrupt him because he's talking about men waiting until their 20s and their 30s, and we're talking about boys at the age of 6, 7, and 8 who are discovering sex. Chris, will you tell them?
I'm just saying, shit, perfect world. What
I was about to say, good luck with that.
Good luck.
I was about to say, good luck with that.
Some kids have had sex 14 years before they hit 20.
No, we're talking about should. This is a hypothetical question. We know.
Let me ask you one question.
Yes.
So just think about it. Remember when you was 18, 17, where you had social media back then?
You said what was that?
Where you had social media back when you was 17, 18?
14.
Well, hey, now for real, hey, Black Planet.
Remember what happened
out, man.
You had social media out there.
About that age. And I was on Black Planet, and I can tell you, a couple of my first encounters were young ladies coming on Black Planet. So, trust me, I'm like right at the beginning of the whole.
And that was hard to come.
Man. So,
well, that's all boiled down to, man, how you was raised, man, the standards that you was raised with, which is going to be very, very, very hard to do nowadays. I mean, you can't shut a kid's life off away from the world because you really set them up for failure. Then they'll be woken up to a wide awakening and stuff. But you can, like they said earlier, discipline, teach them their morals, teach them their values. Why did they take financial planning out of high school? That needs to be back in high school. That needs to be back in middle school. That needs to be in the urban area. How to manage a checkbook, how to save money, what credit looks like, how to invest your money. Why can't we start that stuff early, just like we do with sexual education and stuff like that? Why can't we start that stuff early in middle school? These kids are a lot smarter now. They can go to the internet and find anything. So, I guess I just truly believe it's all boiled down to that foundation, how you was raised and stuff like that. You only can do so much because that kid's gonna have to find his way. And I'm gonna be the first one to say, and you might not believe, but I was a virgin all through high school, and a lot of people laughing, but I was popular with bad and all that. But I was always had in my mind, I didn't do no drugs, I didn't drink. I smoked weed for the first time on graduation night.
Wow.
And I tried that one time, that was it. But I always thought basketball. my true love was the game of basketball. So I always thought that was gonna mess me up with basketball. So I grew up a virgin. I don't know if it's just because my mom instilled that in me or what it was, but that's
It
how it
was the
was.
purpose. I see that
Hmm?
now. I see that because actually that reminds me the weed was like it was put in my face several times when I was younger, right? I
Yeah.
played basketball, I
Yep.
ran track, and I played soccer. So I was an
Hmm.
athlete. That was my thing. And I actually remember now that
Yeah.
I think about it, I forgot about this, but I had tried weed once in high school. I was like, I don't need to be doing that. I don't like it. Well, then in college, you know what I'm saying, there was a lot of guys. There were more people that smoked weed or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I got hurt. It was like the third game of the season, so I had to sit out. I had the red shirt or whatever. And leaving, not having that purpose is what brought down my inhibitions. And I started doing things that I wouldn't
Yeah.
do before. So literally, it was, hey man, we having a party. You want to drink? No, I'm an athlete. That
Hmm.
was literally my response. No, I'm an athlete. I don't do that.
Yeah.
And then when that athlete
Yeah.
identity was stripped away from me, I was like open to whatever, you know. And so I really do believe a big part of it is purpose. But
Hmm.
what I'm saying is, I believe if we help our young men, help our young boys find their purpose early and help them understand that a lot of these things can be a deterrent to
Oh
your
yeah.
success, I think that we can keep our
Yeah.
boys on the straight and narrow for a little bit longer. I'm not saying that they're naive. I'm not saying that they were putting
Yeah.
their life on pause, but I think they're moving too fast. I think a lot of us
Yeah.
move way too fast. Sometimes I'll hear people that say, well, the person has a child maybe at 19 or 20, they're unprepared. And usually the response is, well, they're going to be done by this age, whatever. They're going to be done by 40 or something. Now, as I get closer to 40, I still feel young. I go to the gym every day. I work out. I
Hmm.
feel good. I can still do everything I could do when I was 20 years old. And so I really don't think that there's much lost in that 10 years from 20 to 30 by focusing on your
Oh,
purpose
that's nice.
instead of women and having babies and all that kind of stuff. I think you can have a much higher quality of life if you wait. What do you think, Andrew? I see you have some thoughts there.
Listen to what the words that you use, like discipline. Chris used discipline. You use discipline. Discipline. The definition to me means that I have something that's repetitive, that I'm doing over and over and over. That's what that word discipline means. Meaning I am getting up. I am doing this routine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you lost that routine of playing basketball, you had nothing to put in that place. Chris, when you didn't have that routine of basketball, you had nothing to put in that place. And it goes back to when you have something that feels good,
Hmm.
you gravitate to something that feels good. I was a virgin all the way through high school because I had a whole lot of
Yep.
stuff that felt good. Life was great. I was always on a natural high. Never did drugs or anything. Smoked one joint on my 18th birthday. It did nothing for me, so I moved on because, like I said, we're looking for something that
Hmm.
feels good. And when we don't have that discipline or that
Yep.
routine, then we have time. And then when we have time, other things start to creep in and entertain us. And we're now looking for, what can help me feel good in this moment that I don't feel good because I'm hurt, because I'm lost, because I'm off my path, because I don't know. So that's when sex actually says, you know what? Let me try this.
Or it was a cool thing to do. You wanted to be cool. It was the
Exactly.
cool kids was doing that, hanging out. Yeah, we just gotta maybe install that discipline, like you said, that mindset, man. It's something else outside of that. Like, build yourself up first. Stop having these women trying to teach a man how to be a man. You know what I'm saying? They trying to raise a man to be a man when he should already be a man. That's why we get a lot of women on social media complain about we don't got no more good men out there. These men don't know how to do anything, stuff like that. So it starts with the foundation and the discipline. That's
Well, I mean, it's because
the good
a lot
morals.
of us are trying. It goes back to what I was saying, man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna convince the world of this. Men need to wait until they're 30 because
What do you
because man, I mean,
30 to do what?
does cement need time to harden? Does it need time to set? Yes. And so I look at my 20-year-old self
Yeah,
as some wet
yeah, yeah.
concrete.
It
I
does.
wasn't solid. I wasn't ready to hold anything up. I wasn't a foundation. I was some wet cement at 20.
Yeah,
And so you have all these
yeah,
guys that are going out
yep.
here running out of the gate. I'm a grown man because I can go sign a lease now or whatever, right? But you aren't fully developed in the minds. Matter of fact, I was reading something. You
Hmm.
ain't developed fully until you're 30 anyway. And so now you're having a child with a woman. You haven't had a father. You don't know what it looks like. You're not solid. And then when the weight, like we were talking about the weightlifting at the beginning, when you start loading up that weight in your 20s, you're loading it up. Boom, here's another child. Boom, here's another child. Here's some debt. Here's some more responsibility. Here's a job I hate. You're loading that bar up with all this weight. Now you get 30, 35. Let me get down on this bench and get to work. And you about kill yourself. You about kill yourself. And so, like, I'm on a serious campaign. Men, relax until you're 30. Work on your purpose. What do you think about that, Lauren?
Well, I guess as the resident bad boy of the panel, I think it's what we don't teach is how to value a relationship. We just don't teach how to value a relationship. You know, when you go into a relationship with all the wrong intentions, bad things are going to happen. Like, bad things are going to happen. But, you know, if you were actually in a relationship to develop a relationship, because you got to understand, dating is just as much about finding what you don't want as much as it is about finding what you do want in a person. You know, so I think it's how you teach a young boy or a young girl how to value a relationship with the opposite sex.
You know? Yeah, you know, because I actually read a meme the other day. It said, what does it say? Dating is about collecting data and not bodies.
So Lauren,
something like that.
do we know that that we're actually looking for what we don't want while we're looking for what we do want? Does that make sense? Meaning dating at a certain age, I'm only looking for what I want, and I'm not examining what I lost and what it did to me. There was not a message. There was not a message, or what they call that. There was not a something. Anyway, I didn't learn something from that experience because I wasn't looking to learn. I was looking for what I was looking for: pleasure, company, whatever it is I was looking for. And once that ended, my search began again. So I never looked at me. I never looked at her. I only looked at what I wanted and what I did not get.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that? So like I've heard the concept of Marvin Gaye said it's sexual healing.
Exactly.
When I get that feeling, I need sexual healing. So, do you feel that there are too many men looking at women as and also emotions of some sort?
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just about to say something about that. Being raised by my mom, I always felt like I needed to be up under a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like that motherly love. And I didn't realize that I was like this until probably 8-9 months ago. And I'm 44 years old. You know, I jumped from relationship to relationship. Because I always felt like I need to be up under the woman. I hate being alone. And so I didn't do a lot of going out and stuff like that. Well, yeah, I did. In my 20s, I did. I'm gonna stop lying. Yes, I did. In my 20s, I did. But I just felt like I needed to be up under a woman. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a bad thing, but I had to learn. I had to go stand out on my own 2 feet. You know what I'm saying? Be that man. And not saying I wasn't being a man in a relationship, not saying that at all. I just say that I needed a woman in my life at all times. But I didn't.
Yeah, and
so
like I said,
and that comes from being the only child. That's come from being the only child raised by my mom. So she was always there. She's always there now.
Melvin Brown just
And that's just my takeaway from that.
Yeah, Melvin Brown just wrote "Lack of Attention," you know, and as a young boy, this is how I was groomed. I don't know how everybody else was groomed, but when you 5 years old and all the adults are having a party and they tell you to come out in the center of the floor and dance, and you dance and they all clapping for you and they're throwing pennies and stuff like that. So you say, oh man, that feels good. You start to look for attention. When you grow up and you start to play basketball and you make that hoop and everybody starts cheering for you, you say, oh man, I like that. You know, when you walking down the street chewing bubble gum and staying in stride at the same time, and some girl says, "Ooh, man, I like that." You're looking for that light. You're looking for that attention. It becomes a drug. it becomes a drug.
Well, seeing the thing with that though, and that's where I'm saying I'm like gonna keep hammering on this. Y'all gonna get sick of it. That's why we gotta wait until we're 30, man, because we're too close to that. We're too close to that constant affirmation that we get as children. Like seriously, man. So look, I'm gonna share this with you. So, like I said, I play sports and all that. So I got a lot of the, yeah, go Andrew. Okay, you're doing it. You can jump high, you can shoot the ball, you can run, whatever. I have 4 sisters. I'm the only boy. I was raised by my mother. So I got a lot of, oh, you're so handsome. Oh, they used to print me and dress me. And, I went to church. I had the town and, the whole 9 or whatever. And so you're right, Andrew. So then I go to college. I'm playing ball. I get hurt. And now the affirmation is gone. Because like you, Lauren, we ain't been together in person. I don't know if I'm talking to you or not. We'll figure it out. But,
You are.
I was on the basketball team and I ain't 6'5". So, so there was that. And so a lot of that positive affirmation, that go, Andrew, go kind of went out of the window, right? And so I get out of college. I get back home. I'm sure some of you guys. So I got into like throwing, you heard of like Magic Mike? Y'all know who that is? The whole little okay. I was Magic Mike before Magic Mike was Magic Mike. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so it went to a point of what drew me into it literally was the affirmation. And so like you're right, Andrew, like we're constantly seeking validation. But when you don't have a sense of purpose, you'll take the validation from anywhere. That's the problem. And so you come from a little boy, your mom's affirming you 24/7. You get into high school, depending on what circle you're in, you're getting constantly affirmed there. And then boom, your social life leaves right after school. And now it's about just work and just regular life where you're not getting praised for everything you do. Now it's just about paying bills and keeping a job or whatever you're doing. And so without having a strong sense of purpose right up front at the beginning, you're constantly looking for that validation, and it generally you want it to come from a female. You want a female to find you attractive, which of course leads to you loading up that weight bench with children, debt, and everything else. And so I agree with you on this one, Andrew. You got me.
No, but here, hey, you just got finished saying something about oh shoot, what'd you say? You wanted that affirmation from mom because she always gave it to you.
Right.
Dad, on the other hand, or that male figure in the household,
Right.
he doesn't always affirm. He's usually punching you in the chest, or if you fall down and mom's getting ready to dry your tears, hey, leave that little alone. He got to man up.
Right.
So all that stuff starts to not feel good at a younger age. So he starts to gravitate a little bit further away from what doesn't feel good. I don't want to get up and go outside and cut the grass with you. I don't want to get up and go empty the trash because you said so. I don't want to start doing it. Don't feel good. And then when you whoop me for not doing it, I'm definitely not going to come around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that definitely. Man, I appreciate the conversation, guys. So this whole thing is about the value of a man. Just for those that are just tuning in, definitely watch the replay. There was a lot of good information in here, but I want to close this with one question to each of you. The title of this was what is the true value of a man? And so just each of you, what are 3 characteristics? I'm talking about a good man. What are 3 characteristics of a good man that show what his value is to society? I'll start with you, Andrew.
For me, my opinion, because I'm still striving for this, is being able to love unconditionally, because that's supposedly my role. I'm supposed to be able to love my family and anybody around me through everything, so that they will understand, or so they will be able to be all that they can be. Forgiveness. I need to learn how to not only forgive myself for everything that I was not, am not, and will not be, but that transfers to everybody in my life, to accept them for exactly who they are and what they are, accepting their what they are not, because that is what makes them spotless. And lastly, patience, because I still want it now, which is why I've developed a 32-year plan so that I can learn how delayed gratification and what it really means.
That's strong. What about you, Lauren? Three qualities of a man that bring value to society.
Stability. Stability would be one. Two, I would say a strong communicator, a, a effective communicator. Let me rephrase that: an effective communicator. And then I guess my third would be, hey, patience. Patience is a big one, and patience comes with discipline. You know, you understand how to be disciplined when you can learn how to be patient. Uh, so yeah, that would be my three, man. Communication. Your word is your bond. You gotta speak
Mm.
by it. You gotta live by it.
Well, what about you, Chris?
Um, First one would be probably forgiveness. Learn how to forgive and let go, let that anger go. Um, Second one would be understanding. Um, Learn how to understand how to accept certain things in life, and some things you can't change, some things you can change. But just understanding certain things that's going to approach you in life. The third one would definitely be patience. You know, what's the example they said? So they say, so you don't give a 10-year-old a car, right? Just give him the keys. You got to teach
Right.
him how to drive it, how to be responsible with it, and stuff like that. That's the same thing with your purpose and the stuff that you won't get in life. You got to build up to it. So you got to be patient for it. You got to get trained for it and stuff like that. So that's one thing I have to learn. I'm still trying to learn, just like it's patience. We want stuff right then and there instead of working for it, or what am I measuring my drive by? If I'm measured by how many likes I got on a post, that's not what it's about. You know what I'm saying? If I'm trying to get my book out there, how many times did it get shared? How many times did my video get shared? Stuff like that. I gotta stop measuring stuff like off that. So patience.
Definitely, definitely. So my three, and I have trouble with this, but the first one definitely is discipline. I think that men bring a certain level of discipline to the home, and as well as society overall. So that's extremely important. I would also say being a protector of the women and children in your life. And so I believe that all men should take up the responsibility of being, just having that masculine energy available for the people in your life that may need it, whether it's an aunt, a niece, your woman, your daughter, and a protector of all the children around you. And so protection is another one. And then I believe that a man has to be accountable. And so you can give someone else discipline, even discipline that you may not have yourself. You have the ability to do that through some people do it through spanking, some people do it through long lectures, but you can discipline your child even though you may not be as disciplined as you should be. But accountability is a personal journey. And so I feel that all men need to work on being more accountable, and holding themselves to a certain standard. I believe that's really important. And so those are my three. And then we got a comment here from Corey in Fame. He says the main quality is to stand on your words. And this is very interesting. I'm going to end with this. So I was having dinner with my boys a couple days ago. And I asked them, I try to get them in the headspace of becoming a man one day. One is 11, one is 9. And so I asked him, I said, what are three qualities that you need to have to be a good man when you grow up? And they both said one was being strong. They think it's important, a man should be strong. They said a man has to have money. So that just kind of lends to their idea of men being providers. But the last one that they said was a man has to be trustworthy. And they both said it. They both said it. And I asked them individually. And so I was kind of stumped on that one because I'm like, okay, well, can you explain, why do you say trustworthy? And neither one of them had a real answer for it, right? And so it got me to thinking over the course of a few days because I was just going to go back and ask them the same thing. I wanted to give them time to think and not just give them an answer. Um, and so I started thinking about that. I'm like, well, man, when you say trustworthy, I'm like, okay, well, when a woman talks about a man being trustworthy, they're usually talking about infidelity, right? or if in society when they're talking about trust or trustworthiness, it may have to do with a certain character flaw, criminality, etc. And so I thought about it, I thought about it, I thought about it, and today, literally, while I was in the shower, it kind of hit me, and I'm like, wait a minute, maybe they meant they're trusting me to take care of them and be a good provider, because they did say strong and having money as part of the thing. So I went back and I asked them, literally in the middle of my day, in the middle of my work day, I went and asked my boys. I said, hey, so when we were talking about the whole trustworthy thing, I said, do you mean like you trust me, like you trust me? And they were like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. And so, a man standing on his word is extremely important. I agree with you, Corey, because the children look at that heavily, more than I realized until just here recently, that they're trusting me with their life. For them to be able to be boys and just play, and the only responsibility is I got to keep my room clean and go to school. You know what I mean? That's what I got to do. I got to do a good job with that, and I got to make sure that mom ain't calling you, telling you I'm out here, being disrespectful or whatever. For them to be able to focus on that, they have to trust that daddy's providing, daddy's taking care of things, daddy is protecting. When a child has all of these adult weights on their shoulders, it's difficult for them to be a child, and just really, grow up in the best way possible. And so that was just a little story from my personal life that I wanted to share with you guys. Real quick, what are your thoughts on that? Just children, two little boys saying that one of the main characteristics is trustworthiness. I just thought that was an odd word for them to choose.
Well, I mean, they're watching everything you do, listen to everything you say,
Yep.
everything, the good, the bad, the
Yep.
ugly. They're doing all of it. So it, it's annoying at times. I had to say, sometimes you want I can't stop listening to me. Like I want to let my hair down, but they're watching your every move. They're listening to your every word, and they're hanging on
Every
it. So
move.
when you made
Yep.
when you said you know uh you they're looking at you to protect them and things of that nature. It's they're looking for the path. You were their guide along the path. You know, you were the person that they should want to trust the most, and so that's why they said that. But that also leads to their understanding of that is really it really speaks to your engagement with them. Because a regular boy, most boys may not
Yeah.
say that
That's
just
deep.
because it's just not
Yeah.
something that comes to mind, you know, because and some of it is they're used to the opposite. When we talk about, the young men, they're used to the opposite. So that it doesn't become important anymore. So the fact that you're instilling that in them just speaks to the quality of the relationship and what you're doing every day with them. So
Perfect, perfect. Well, fellas, I appreciate you guys coming on tonight. I know you could definitely do anything with your time, but this project is really, really, really important to me. I want to help as many men as possible. And we didn't start this platform because we have all the answers. We started this platform to have the conversation, to open up the conversation.
Yep.
And so, definitely we're here every Monday, 7 p.m. Share this information with your friends. Bring more people to the conversation, because I
Will
know
do.
one thing. Two heads are better than one, and 10 you could definitely win. I don't know how to think of something to rhyme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was
so
cool. That was cool.
oh
Thanks
yeah,
for
oh yeah,
having me,
yeah, I gotta
bro.
put
And
my
thanks for
collar
the
on that.
opportunity.
Yes, sir. So now, Christopher, since you're new, I want to start with you. Definitely any last words, and how can people get in contact with you? Where can they find the book? Let them know.
Um, you can find a book on Amazon or go to my Facebook page, Christopher Heart Warrior Williams, or you go to Amazon, 10 Daily Weapons of the Heart Warrior. I have a link on there for that. And also, man, keep doing what you're doing. We need more and more groups like this. It's on us, man. It's on us. We need that strong male bonding. Like you said, with your boys, they watching every move you're doing. Um, we need maybe next time get some younger youth in here so they can listen to us or something like that. Just that type of audience. Uh,
Definitely.
but this is powerful. This is powerful stuff. I appreciate. I took some things away from you're never too old to not learn something. Learn something. I try to learn something new every day, and I just learned something. So
Same here.
it was amazing. It was amazing. So thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, you can go to my Facebook page also. It's the Heart Warrior CW on there. I have all the information stuff on there like that. And if y'all message me, I'll send y'all a book. I'll send y'all a book for free on me. Just give me
Cool, cool.
everybody's information. I send them out. Yep.
So I hope y'all heard that. He said,
Appreciate it, brother.
free book on him. We appreciate that for sure. And with the story that you
Yeah.
shared with us at the beginning of this, a stroke at 36, 8 months down, and to shake that off, and then only to deal with the same thing again,
And
take it off again.
I'm gonna go and tell you a little bit about the second book real quick.
Sure.
Let me tell you something about the second book. I said the stroke. So the second book is everything I went through in life. The first time I faced death was I got shot in the chest. So
Wow.
I didn't face death like 5 times already, and I'm sharing that story. And so a lot of people don't even know that about my past and stuff like that, growing up where I grew up from. So I hadn't faced it. I've been through the ringer. So that's
That's
why I'm
incredible.
here. So thank you very much for the opportunity and everything. It's gonna be amazing.
Man. Lauren, any last words, brother?
Man, it's always a pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure when I can have a conversation with some like-minded wise men. I always try to pull a new nugget out I can use, man. Those instrumentals are working, by the way.
Ah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah,
Telling you. Hey, for those of y'all that don't know, if y'all ain't been watching, so like a couple shows back or whatever, we were talking about the music and how it affects the children, whatever. I had a situation with my boys. They were listening to some bad music. I explained the words to them and what it meant. Long story short, they realized after the song was decoded that they didn't want any parts of that. And so now we're listening to instrumentals. And I got Lauren on the train too. There we go.
I'm on the train. I'm on the train, man. So I appreciate you.
That's what's up. That's what's up. AL Boykin.
Hey, I just want to send a shout out to Christopher for facing death. But now I see that you are facing life. A lot of people don't know how to face life. And when they do face it, they're afraid of it. So congratulations for taking that head on. What I hope
Thank
people
you.
do is to take an opportunity to go to my website, Restin 2050. That's RESTIN 2050. Restin2050.org.
Wrestling
That's where I am. That's where my mindset is. We have 10,000 days, a little bit more than that, before 2050 gets here. And unfortunately, it's going to get here whether we're prepared for it or not. I'd rather be prepared. I'd rather not have the same conversation that we've been having for the past almost century. I'd rather us do something different. Restin2050.org.
Let me ask you one question before we close this out. Restin2050.org, because we're going to do a live stream specifically on that. And one thing that I've done, just researching other cultures and etc. The strongest societies, the strongest civilizations ever, they would have 100-year plans, 500-year plans. I've even seen 800-year plans. I think the highest was I saw was like 800, and it was a Eastern culture. Long story short, we don't have a plan. We don't even have a 5-year plan, a 6-year plan, a 10-year plan, let alone a 32-year plan. And so, what was your inspiration for coming up with that? And can you give us just a little bit more of like what that entails? What is it all about? What are you trying to do?
Well, you in my plan, you have Malcolm X talking about people need to build for the future. You had Muhammad Ali saying if you don't have anything to fight for, so forth and so on. You had a whole lot of people, historical figures, talking about galvanizing and what we needed to do. And you have a whole lot of people who are not necessarily historical figures echoing what they're saying. And we're still talking about that. So what I'm saying is, if we have a chart, and one of them is we need to build resources, we need to build health, we need to build securities, we need to do, if we have 5 different things, and in 32 years we address 2 of them, meaning land and finances, that means in 32 years that group, that those kids, they have now 3 things to talk about. not 5 things, but 3 things. So when they talk about at least two of those 3 things for 2100, and they address 1 or 2 of them, that means 2100 and the year 2100 may have 1 thing to talk about. So after the conversation then ends, we're not talking about stuff, we're living our lives from that point forward.
Beautiful. Man, we're definitely gonna we're gonna dig really deep into that because I think it's very important.
Nice.
But again, thank all of you brothers. Thank everyone who's listening. We're gonna be back again next Monday, same time, same place, 7 p.m. Elevating Men. Again, this is the premier destination for men who are looking to improve their lives, because here we believe that building stronger men will bring stronger families, and stronger families build stronger communities. I want to thank you all for joining us. Come back next week. Have a good night.